My name is Genevieve Delaney, but everyone calls me General. I am 31 years old, and just 3 days from now, I am meant to walk down the aisle in a gown that, at least in my grandmother's dreams, would finally unite our splintered family under a roof of happiness and respect. It's a strange thing standing on the edge of a moment that should be filled with joy, all the while knowing that beneath the surface, the very people meant to love you most are the ones sharpening their knives. I was not born into obscurity or hardship. No, my childhood was spent in a stately brick home in the Upper West Side, the kind of place with white shutters, gleaming marble entryways, and a family crest hung above the fireplace. From the outside, we looked every bit the portrait of American prosperity. My mother, Marilyn, managed everything and everyone with the poise of a general. Her lipstick always perfect, her calendar, color-coded, her gaze sharp enough to pin a butterfly to a board. Then there was Amanda, my older sister by 4 years, blessed with the kind of beauty that photographs well at every angle and a personality that could charm diamonds from a miser. Amanda was the golden child, everyone knew it, perhaps even Amanda herself. At family dinners, when she recounted her latest adventure, a half-hearted semester, abroad, a new job, she would quit by Christmas, our mother would beam. "Spectacular, Amanda, you make us so proud." When I, by contrast, came home with straight A's or news of my first tech patent, Marilyn would merely nod. "That's what we expect from you, General." Sometimes I wondered if I was the family accountant hired to keep the lights on but never invited to the party. Looking back, there were always signs that I was expected to play a supporting role. I remember my 10th birthday, most clearly a day that was supposed to be mine alone. The invitations were sent, the cake chosen. But on the morning of the party, I came down the stairs in my new blue dress to find the kitchen silent. Amanda had a last-minute soccer final. "We'll reschedule your party, sweetheart," my mother announced, barely looking up from her phone. The cake was boxed up and put in the freezer. No one sang that day. It was not just birthdays. When I graduated from Columbia summa cum laude, the first in my family to do so, my parents left the ceremony early for a charity gala Marilyn had promised to attend. "We've already heard your speech in practice, darling," she said, her pearls glinting as she pulled Amanda out the door with her. There was money too, always money. Amanda struggled to keep a steady job but somehow always landed on her feet. When her first apartment in Brooklyn proved too expensive, my parents covered the deposit, $30,000 sent without hesitation. When Amanda announced she wanted to launch a home decor blog, Marilyn handed her a seed fund of $50,000 from the family trust, calling it an investment in your future. Meanwhile, I quietly paid my way through graduate school, taking out loans and tutoring local students, never expecting help. Despite this, I could not bring myself to turn away from them. Family, after all, is family. When Amanda was laid off for the 3rd time in 2 years, I arranged an interview for her at my company, never mind the risk to my own reputation. When Marilyn's boutique lost its lease, I anonymously covered the shortfall, $47,000 wired to the landlord under the name of a family friend. They never suspected, of course. To them, I was just reliable Jen, always on call, never needing thanks. But for all the wounds, I still clung to the hope that one day they might see me. That one day I would walk into the room and just for a moment be something other than the responsible one. I imagined Amanda toasting me at my engagement party, or my mother introducing me as her daughter, the entrepreneur, not just the safety net. If you have ever felt like the reliable one nobody appreciates, you will understand what kept me hoping. What I did not know, standing on the edge of my own wedding week, was how quickly old patterns could turn cruel. How the smallest cracks in a family could become the fault lines of something much larger, something that would not just humiliate me but change the course of all our lives. Little did I realize as I sent out the final RSVP for my rehearsal dinner that I was inviting in the storm that would sweep everything away. If you've ever been left behind for the golden child, if you've carried your family quietly on your own back, stay with me. Because what happened next was the day my family drew a line in the sand, and I finally learned where I stood. In the quiet hours of early morning, I often found myself sitting at the window of my apartment, looking out over the city skyline as the sun spilled gold over Manhattan. It was, by any account, a life most would envy. The living room was filled with books and small treasures from a decade of work and travel. My kitchen gleamed spotless save for the mugs left over from long nights writing code or taking late calls with my board of directors. If you glanced at my life on paper, you'd see a story of upward mobility. Genevieve Delaney, founder of a small but mighty tech company recently acquired by a European conglomerate for $8.2 million. Not that my family ever seemed to notice the numbers. They certainly noticed my upcoming wedding though. Or at least they noticed what it might say about them. Every conversation with Marilyn, my mother, began and ended with the details: how many guests, which venue, what dress. This is a Delaney event, she would remind me, voice clipped and proud, as if our last name alone could secure a favorable mention in the Times. Never mind that it was my money paying for every table, every flower, every borrowed piece of family silver. Amanda, for her part, oscillated between jealousy and disdain. "I hope you don't think success means you're better than us," she once snapped during a family brunch, eyes darting to Marilyn for support. "It's just luck, General. You had a lucky break." At that, Lila, Amanda's daughter, only 16 and already mastering the family's casual cruelty, would stifle a laugh. "Aunt Jen just wants to show off," she'd whisper loud enough for me to hear. Still, I clung to the fantasy of approval. For months, I planned the wedding with painstaking care. The rehearsal dinner was to be a celebration not just of my union, but of hope, the hope that family, after all these years, could be mended by a shared meal and good intentions. I invited everyone: childhood friends, business partners who had become like siblings, even old teachers who'd believed in me long before I believed in myself. Yet the guest list from my own blood remained short and uncertain. Marilyn always hedged her RSVPs. "Well, we'll see if Amanda's schedule lines up, or Lila may have exams, you know how important those are." I used to believe that achievement would buy acceptance. I worked 16-hour days building my company, not for the money but for a place at the table. I bought a penthouse because Marilyn once hinted I'd never own real estate in the city. I donated to her favorite charities under her name, quietly hoping she'd notice. She never did. Behind the scenes, there were pressures that went unspoken. As soon as the engagement was announced, Amanda asked if I'd mind loaning her $20,000 to cover some debts. "It'll look bad if I can't get a new dress for your wedding," she said, voice sugar sweet, but hard at the edges. Marilyn joined forces, urging me to set up a trust for Lila. "It's only fair. Amanda's had a rough few years." There were requests for tuition, for vacations, for favors that always seemed to multiply in the weeks before a major family event. But the real tensions simmered in small spaces in the family group chat, where jokes about Jen, the banker, flew back and forth in the quick side-eye glances when I ordered wine that wasn't on special, in the way Amanda's smile grew brittle any time someone congratulated me. Sometimes I'd catch Marilyn watching me, her expression unreadable, as if she were weighing the cost of keeping me close. Still, I tried to believe this time would be different. I crafted invitations by hand, arranging every seat to minimize old grievances and maximize harmony. I insisted on a rehearsal dinner with both families, my own and that of my fiancé, whose parents flew in from London bearing gifts, and the kind of warmth I rarely saw at my childhood table. My closest friends Vivian and Erica helped me plan every detail, never once making me feel like a burden. 1 week before the wedding, the family group chat exploded with messages. Amanda wanted to add her old roommate to the guest list despite never consulting me. Marilyn criticized the menu as too modern. Lila complained she'd have nothing to wear if she didn't get a new designer dress. I watched the digital squabbles unfold in real time, my phone buzzing late into the night with passive-aggressive requests. At work, I was celebrated. My colleagues cheered the company's sale. I was invited to speak at conferences to mentor young women breaking into tech. There I was seen. At home, I felt invisible, useful only for my ability to make things happen, pay bills, keep secrets, and absorb blame. I wish I could say I saw the coming storm. I wish I'd recognized the early warnings, the way Amanda joked. "Don't get too comfortable, Jen. People like us always come back to earth," or Marilyn's repeated reminders that this family made you never forget that. But hope, I have learned, can be a stubborn thing. It grows even in hard soil, even in the shadow of disappointment. And so, on the eve of the rehearsal dinner, as I zipped up my dress and looked out across the city lights, I found myself longing for something as simple as belonging. Not applause, not gifts, just a seat at the table where I was wanted for more than my usefulness. What I did not yet know was how fragile that hope really was. Or how in just a few hours it would be shattered in front of everyone I loved. Have you ever tried to buy acceptance only to realize the price was yourself? If so, you know exactly where this story is headed. The night of the rehearsal dinner arrived with the electric promise of celebration. The ballroom of the Vanderbilt Grand was transformed, crystal chandeliers casting golden light across linen draped tables, music lilting gently through the air. My fiancé's family had arrived from London, impeccable in their navy suits and warm embraces. My own circle friends from every chapter of my life filled the room with laughter, their presence, a reminder that family could be chosen too. Yet I could not help but notice the tension curling at the corners of the evening. Amanda arrived late, a designer bag dangling from her wrist, Lila in tow, scrolling through her phone with the kind of practiced indifference only teenagers possess. Marilyn swept in behind them, her perfume arriving moments before she did, face set in the smile she reserved for strangers and photographers. I felt the weight of their eyes as I made my rounds greeting guests, checking on details. Amanda sidled up beside me at the bar, her voice low and sharp. "You really pulled it off, General, all this, just for you. Try not to let it go to your head." Lila let out a soft, knowing snicker. Dinner was a whirlwind, courses arriving in delicate succession, toasts made and met with polite applause. My fiancé's father gave a speech gentle and full of praise. Vivian, my oldest friend, raised a glass, recalling late nights and old dreams, and I felt my heart swell with gratitude. Then came the moment that would unravel it all. The hotel's event coordinator wheeled in a cake, a towering frosted confection I'd chosen to mark the blending of our families. As the servers cut slices, Marilyn suggested a family photo, insisting we gather near the projection screen. "Let's show everyone what unity looks like," she announced, her voice ringing clear. We assembled, awkward and smiling. Lila Board began fiddling with the remote for the screen. I did not notice until it was too late, a sudden flicker, and the hotel's projection screen burst to life, not with the slideshow I had prepared, but with the family group chat magnified for the entire room to see. The text scrolled in bright, damning clarity. "Jen only wants this wedding to show off. If it weren't for her lucky break, she'd be nobody. Can't believe she's marrying above her class. She's just a wallet to this family." Lila's face went pale. Amanda hissed her name, but it was too late. Gasps rippled across the crowd. I heard a friend's fork clatter to the floor. I felt a cold wave rise inside me, mortification so complete it left me breathless. Marilyn recovered first. "Turn that off," she snapped, but someone was already filming. Amanda grabbed the remote, but the screen froze, stuck on the cruelest message of all. "We should have made Amanda the first to marry. At least she knows her place." For a moment, the room held its breath. Amanda, red-face, spun toward me, her voice shaking with anger. "Don't look at us like that, General. If you didn't want the truth out, you shouldn't have made everything about you. This family built you. Don't forget it." Marilyn's face tightened. She turned to my fiancé's parents, her tone syrupy and cold. "Genevieve is very independent, sometimes too independent for her own good. We try our best to keep her grounded." But their words only deepened the silence. My friends stared, horrified. My fiancé's mother took my hand gently but firmly. Lila, still holding the remote, mumbled, "It was an accident, but the damage was done." In that moment, I stood exposed, not just as the family scapegoat, but as the one whose deepest hope had been twisted into a weapon. I looked out at the faces, some pitying, some shocked, a few quietly smug. I felt every humiliation from my childhood returning in full force: birthdays missed, achievements overlooked, loyalty repaid with scorn. Now it was all there for everyone to see. Someone in the crowd started recording. A cousin whispered, "It'll be all over social media by morning." I tried to hold back tears, swallowing the urge to flee. Marilyn leaned close, her voice low but venomous. "You should be grateful you even get to wear white tonight. Don't get used to being the center of attention." Amanda added, "Money doesn't buy you class, General. That's why you'll always be an outsider." I realized then that I was not just being punished for my success, I was being exiled from the very family I had spent my life trying to please. For the first time, I let myself see it. Not as a child, not as the fixer, but as a woman who had built a life of her own despite everything. I straightened my shoulders, looked Amanda in the eye, and with a calm I did not know I possessed, said, "Maybe tonight is the last night I try." In the stunned silence, I walked away from the table, the sounds of whispers and camera shutters chasing me out of the room. Outside, the city hummed with life. My phone pinged with messages, sympathy from friends, outrage from colleagues, even a few strangers already reacting to the viral clip. For the first time, I wondered if this humiliation was not the end but the beginning of something I should have done long ago. If you have ever been shamed in front of those you hoped would love you, if you have stood alone in a room full of people, then you know the ache I carried into the night that followed. The morning after the rehearsal dinner, sunlight poured through my window but brought no comfort. I awoke with a pounding headache and the echo of last night's humiliation vibrating in my chest. My phone was a storm, missed calls from Marilyn, frantic texts from Amanda demanding explanations, and a barrage of notifications. The video of the group chat reveal had gone viral as predicted, sparking a conversation far beyond our family's circle. For a while, I sat in silence, letting the pain settle. Then something shifted. I was tired not just of their games but of betraying myself by pretending I needed their approval. There is a certain clarity that comes in the wake of public disgrace. I had nothing left to lose. And for the first time, I realized I also had nothing left to hide. I made a call to my lawyer, Julia. She had been by my side since the earliest days of my company. Calm, unflappable, fiercely loyal. When I explained what happened, Julia's voice was steady. "You have every right to protect what's yours, General. Let's set the record straight." By noon, I was at her office reviewing documents I had once kept locked away in the hope I'd never need them. Trust, agreements, power of attorney forms, the original and amended prenuptial contracts, and a file marked family financial transfers. I had records of every wire, every anonymous bailout, every generous gift I'd ever given to Amanda or Marilyn. Every cent was accounted for, down to the college tuition I'd paid for Lila, the apartment deposit in Amanda's name, the medical bills I covered when Marilyn's insurance fell short. Julia looked through the papers, shaking her head. "They used you, General. But you're not powerless." It was time for the truth. That evening, I called a meeting at the hotel with Marilyn, Amanda, Lila, and my fiancé's family. I invited Vivian and Erica too. They sat with me, flanking my side. I waited until everyone had gathered, the tension thick enough to taste. Amanda was defiant, arms, crossed eyes, narrowed. Marilyn tried to maintain her composure, but her hands fidgeted with her pearl necklace. Leela sat quietly, guilt written across her face. I placed a folder in the center of the table. Since last night's events are already public, I think we should all be honest for once. I laid out the evidence, printouts of bank transfers, signed loan agreements, copies of trust fund requests, and the emails Amanda and Marilyn had sent me over the years, asking for just a little help. The room fell silent as I read out the numbers: $1.8 million for Amanda's failed businesses, $450,000 in silent bailouts, $70,000 for Lila's education, dozens of other sums for rent, holidays, and medical emergencies, always repaid with cold gratitude or indifference. Then came the legal twist. Julia handed Marilyn and Amanda a new document. "This is an updated trust. I am removing both of you as beneficiaries. All future distributions will go to charities that help women start new businesses, something I wish I had growing up." Amanda protested, her voice rising. "You can't just cut us off. We're family." Julia, calm as ever, replied, "Legally she can." And she just did. My fiancé's parents looked on, silent but supportive. His mother reached over and squeezed my hand. Marilyn tried one last tactic, her voice trembling between anger and desperation. "Jen, don't do this. You need your family. No one else will stand by you when the money runs out." For the first time, I did not flinch. "It's not about money. It's about respect. Something I have never truly received from you." Amanda's face red, spat. "You're ungrateful. Without us, you'd be nothing." I met her gaze. "You taught me exactly who I never want to become." Then came the final twist. Vivian, who had been quiet all along, slid her own phone across the table. "Actually, Jen's been supporting all of us. Even me. She helped me get back on my feet after my divorce." "You never even asked how she was doing, did you?" The room went still. For the first time, Amanda and Marilyn seemed to see the truth reflected in the eyes of someone they could not dismiss. Before anyone could protest further, Julia stood. "We're done here. Any attempt to contest this will be met with every legal means available. Genevieve is no longer responsible for your comfort, your mistakes, or your silence." I stood as well, feeling lighter than I had in years. "You may choose to stay for the wedding tomorrow, but know this: you are here as guests. You will treat my friends and my new family with respect, or you will be escorted out." With that, I walked away from the table, Vivian and Erica by my side. I could hear Amanda's muffled sobs and Marilyn's sharp whispers trailing behind me, but I did not look back. That night, as I sat by the window, the city glowing far below, I realized I had done more than defend myself. I had claimed my life. For the first time, I belonged to myself alone. If you have ever stood up to those who take you for granted, you know the strange mix of sorrow and relief that follows, and you know that sometimes letting go is the only way forward. The morning of the wedding dawned brighter than I expected, sunlight slanting through tall windows, cutting through the lingering ache of the night before. For the first time in years, I breathed easily. There was a hush in my heart, as if all the noise and pleading and desperate wishing for approval had finally been silenced. I braced myself for more drama, but the atmosphere had shifted. Marilyn and Amanda kept their distance, their eyes darting away whenever our paths crossed. Amanda wore a carefully chosen dress, but her usual bravado was gone. Lila, pale and subdued, offered a small embarrassed apology when we met in the hallway. I accepted with a nod. Sometimes the best you can offer is a quiet, honest reckoning. The wedding itself became a celebration of a different sort. My friends, the ones who had cheered my successes and mourned my losses, filled the front rows. My fiancé's family, open-hearted and full of gentle humor, welcomed me as their own. Vivian and Erica stood by my side, holding my bouquet and holding my hand. There were tears, of course, but they were cleansing, a washing away of the old pain. Still, not everyone in the room understood the shift. During the reception, I overheard a guest whispering about family drama and trust fund scandals. Someone mentioned the viral video now making the rounds on social media. The story had legs. Strangers online were debating whether I was a hero for standing up to my family or a villain for airing dirty laundry. I watched bemused as a hashtag with my name trended for the first time. The world, it seemed, wanted a spectacle. But I was no longer performing. In the days that followed, the fallout became clear. Marilyn attempted to call her messages, alternating between icy threats and pleading for forgiveness. Amanda tried to rally extended relatives to her side, but most weary of years of silent feuds simply faded away. Lila sent a quiet email, no accusations, just a single line: "I hope you're happy. I'm sorry." I replied, "I hope you find your way, Lila. You're more than this family's mistakes." The press for a moment circled like vultures. A few tabloids ran with the tech heiress cuts off her family angle, but most soon moved on. In my own world, the people who mattered closed ranks, forming a net that held me steady. Something else bloomed too, a network of people, many of them strangers, who reached out with stories of their own. Some had endured similar humiliations, some had lost everything to family betrayal, some just wanted to say thank you for not backing down. I received letters from women who had left toxic homes, from men who had rebuilt lives after decades of resentment, from children who had chosen new families for themselves. Inspired by their courage, I made a decision. I took the funds I had once earmarked for Amanda and Marilyn and started the Delaney Foundation, a quiet, steady organization that gave grants and mentorship to women breaking free from unhealthy family patterns or starting businesses on their own terms. It was not revenge exactly, it was healing. It was building something out of the ashes. Vivian and Erica became my closest collaborators. We spent evenings together dreaming up ways to help others rewrite their stories. We hosted dinners, invited people from every walk of life, sharing food and laughter and the assurance that there were second chances in this world. With every day, the old need for approval faded. I no longer checked my phone for Marilyn's blessing. I no longer worried about Amanda's envy or Lila's cold shoulders. Instead, I focused on the community I had built, on the love that flowed freely between chosen family and new friends. And as I watched my story move beyond gossip, becoming something that gave hope to others, I realized that my greatest act of revenge had never been the confrontation or the legal twist. It was simply this: I had become whole. I had learned to live outside the shadow of other people's expectations. I had stopped apologizing for who I was. If you have ever lost one family only to build another, you know the bittersweet taste of freedom and regret. And you know the quiet power of choosing your own happiness, no matter what the world may say. 6 months have passed since the wedding, the day the old world ended and a new one quietly began. In some ways, my daily life looks much the same. The morning sun still splashes through the east-facing windows of my apartment, now filled with plants and laughter and the gentle mess of friends who feel at home. Yet almost everything that matters has changed. I no longer wake up scanning my phone for messages from Marilyn or Amanda. There are no late-night calls with the sound of accusations, no long threads of guilt and obligation disguised as family tradition. My calendar is filled instead with brunches that spill into afternoons, dinners with colleagues who have become confidants, Sunday hikes through Central Park with Vivian, Erica, and their families. My home, once an anxious showroom for mother's approval, is now a living, breathing place. The guest room is almost always occupied, sometimes by a college student, The Delaney Foundation is mentoring, sometimes by an old friend in transition, sometimes by Lila, who visits quietly and often asking little and listening more. Lila is changed too. In the aftermath of everything, she withdrew for a while. Her pride wounded, her view of family shaken. But little by little, she began to reach out, first with a hesitant text, then an invitation to coffee, and finally with real questions about how to live honestly. I never asked her to explain or apologize. Sometimes the only way to move forward is to allow the past to be what it was and to focus on what comes next. When she asked for an internship at the foundation, I agreed without conditions. She's found a place among the women we help, learning the truth that family can be built by kindness and shared struggle rather than blood and old wounds. My own career has blossomed in ways I never predicted. Freed from the anxious need to prove myself to Marilyn, I have become more creative, more generous, less afraid to take risks. The tech company that once defined my worth is now just one chapter in a much larger story. I mentor, I invest, I give talks at colleges, sometimes to rooms full of bright young women who remind me painfully of the person I once was. I tell them, do not let someone else's limitations become the ceiling for your life. Do not wait for approval that will never come. Build your own table and fill it with those who know how to celebrate, not compete. The Delaney Foundation, too, has grown. What started as a way to turn pain into purpose has become a gathering place for hundreds of women, some fleeing, controlling families, some leaving marriages that crushed their spirit, some just looking for a fresh start. Every month, we host workshops on financial literacy, legal, self-defense, entrepreneurship. Vivian and Erica are my partners in this, their old wounds stitched into wisdom, their energy infectious. Sometimes we laugh remembering how much we once tiptoed around the expectations of others. Now there is no need. As for Marilyn and Amanda, their lives have changed in ways I could never have orchestrated, nor would I wish to. Marilyn retreated into her old circles, her influence diminished as the truth about her treatment of me found its way gently and inevitably into conversation. Amanda tried for a while to fight back, spreading stories, calling in old favors, but the world is less forgiving of entitlement than it once was. They live in the same house, their windows shuttered, their dinners echoing with the silence of things left unsaid. Lila visits less and less. The old alliances are crumbling, replaced by the awkward realization that power built on manipulation rarely lasts. Do I forgive them? I think forgiveness is less an event and more a decision you remake every day. I do not wish them harm. I hope they find some measure of peace, though I have learned it is not my job to provide it. Boundaries are not the absence of love, they are the evidence of self-respect. That, more than anything, is the gift this journey has given me. There are moments still when memory stings, a photograph, a phrase, a song at a wedding that sounds like the past. But I am not trapped there. I walk forward arm in arm with friends who have earned my trust and offered theirs in return. We have created new traditions, an annual summer party in my apartment open to anyone who needs a place to belong. A secret Santa at Christmas where names are drawn and stories shared, laughter spilling late into the night. There are children too, learning that family is something you choose, not something you're handed. Their eyes are bright, unshadowed by old drama. Once I thought the height of happiness would be finally being recognized by Marilyn or Amanda, being told you matter. We are proud of you. Now I know the truth. The deepest contentment is living so fully that their approval is no longer the prize. And what of justice, revenge, the sweet satisfaction so many strangers online demanded? I did not get the public apology. I did not win a courtroom victory or see my story headline in the business press for longer than a news cycle. Instead, I found something better. The quiet dignity of a life chosen. The peace that comes when you close one door and trust yourself to open another. The surprising joy of looking in the mirror and liking the person who looks back. Some evenings as the city lights flicker on, I find myself reflecting. The pain, the humiliation, the betrayals, they were real and they shaped me, but they do not define me. The greatest act of rebellion in the end was not to destroy my old family, but to create a new one. One built on honesty, respect, and the courage to begin again. So if you have ever found yourself sitting at the edge of a family table wondering if you will ever be more than a convenient afterthought, know this. You do not need to wait for permission to belong. You can write your own story, even if you have to start with a blank page. Family can be broken, but it can also be built. Happiness is not owed. It is crafted piece by piece in the small and stubborn choices of every day. I would love to hear your story if you care to share. Have you ever had to draw a line to say enough to build something new from the ruins of the old? Do you believe that blood requires forgiveness, or do you agree that trust and love must be earned? Leave your thoughts below. And if you need a place to belong, know that you are welcome at my table.